Hello everybody, this is TipTop MTG here today with another Magic the Gathering video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about Commander Legends and my thoughts on the set as a whole. For pretty much every set they release, I do a video where I cover different topics about it, and generally they follow the same kind of format. However, recently I've been kind of switching it up. What's the point of me talking about the lore of Zendikar Rising, which this is not a Zendikar Rising review, when I really don't care too much about it? So, going forward, the next couple reviews are going to be more dynamic and more just dependent on what I want to talk about, instead of just an overall overview of the set, because I think I can talk a lot more about the things I'm passionate about and give you more information that makes sense and that is useful to you. And so I'm just going to start this off by saying Commander Legends is awesome. It is one of the most fun sets I have played, have seen new cards from. Like, I got excited every morning for spoiler season, and that doesn't happen with every, card set. Sometimes, core sets, I'm just like, oh, I guess they're new cards, that's kind of interesting. But here, there were a lot of awesome things, and I think when I'm looking at spoilers, I'm not thinking immediately, oh, what is the impact this has on the standard metagame or whatever format the cards are entering, but instead I think, what kind of deck does this go in, and do I have a deck like that? Can this be added to a deck and have some fun new cards in it? And I think Commander Legends delivered on that in a very good way. It was just such an exciting set, and it's something that just is a little bit more different than we're used to. And there's lots of new designs, new deck types, and some new ways to do old themes, and I think that's what works really well. It's not just a bunch of whole new designs, brand new types of decks, similar to the commander that lets you end the turn. That's kind of a whole new type of deck that now has a commander. But then we have some cards that are just kind of like, ooh, play this with zombies, and it's just a new way to do something they've done before. And there's also just new ways to do old themes. I mean, we have enchantments matter in Mardu. We kind of just color shifted it a little bit there, and I think that is really fascinating. It opens up so many doors, and so the balance between it seems pretty good. There's a few that are just introducing brand new archetypes. There's a decent amount that are interesting ways to do old themes, and then there are those few that kind of break the mold a little bit and are really awesome because of it. And just generally, there are some really fun and wacky cards. Yes, some of them are a little bit more generic, but some of them also have really cool designs that I am excited to build around. However, I think people, when looking at the set, are looking at it in a positive light. A lot of things about it appear to be going pretty well. But if I were to say there was one big complaint, it would probably be pushed cards. And this has kind of been a complaint with lots of recent sets. Every set seems to have a couple of these. And Jeweled Lotus is the, main point of conversation for Commander Legends. And do I think that pushed cards are a problem? For draft, yes, and I'll get to that a little bit more in my draft review, but outside, I don't think that the pushed cards are really that big of a deal. Yes, there are clearly cards in here that are intended to either sell packs or just maybe not even be that notorious in, motive. At least they are meant to be very, very, very powerful cards, but I think because of the, self-governing nature of Commander, I think that it's not that big of a deal. And unlike a standard set where, Omnath coming out and me saying this is ridiculous is a little bit more acceptable because you don't play standard nearly as much in a casual sense. If you're playing casually, you're either probably playing Commander or just all cards I have. And if that's the case, well, then it's not that big of a deal. But if you're playing standard, you are probably playing more competitively. That does not mean you have to play the best deck, but it does mean that things, if there's a very powerful deck, it's a lot more common in standard, historic, modern, legacy for you to go and fight that deck a lot. Versus Commander, you just basically say, hey, don't bring in Mana Crypt. And I've said this before and I'll say it again, if your group is not running Mana Vaults, Mana Crypts, other Lotuses, Lotus Petal, for instance, you really don't need to worry about this card. Yes, you may have someone who ends up pulling it and it may fit in one deck, but again, it's only one card out of 100, and the only place I really see this taking off is in CEDH, where it can probably let you combo off a lot earlier. And actually, I think this is a good thing. I know a majority of the player base probably isn't into comboing off turn 1. That's probably not like the big thing they're really wanting to do, but there is a part of the community that cares about that. And I don't want this to be a Jeweled Lotus review, so I'm going to move on here fairly quickly, but I just want to mention that, and I don't know if I've said this before, but there are people who enjoy that kind of gameplay, and to say that, quote, because I don't like it, it shouldn't be printed, I think is a little bit ridiculous. They don't get that many combo or like pieces for that, although I guess recently there have been more and more powerful cards. Those competitive players who want to combo off, saying that they should just never get new cards for that kind of gameplay is a little silly, and I think that everyone just kind of needs to take a step back, and I think since it's been revealed, the heat around it has kind of died down. But yeah, I'd like to know your guys' thoughts on Jeweled Lotus in the comments down below. So, the big selling point of Commander Legends is not just, hey, there are a bunch of new cards for Commander, which I think is a big point for some, but one of the bigger points is that this is finally draftable Commander. I mean, in the past, there have been cubes around Commander, not official by Wizards of the Coast, and so drafting Commander has been a thing people have done, but this is the first Wizards official product, and actually, this year we got the first kind of Chaos Draft product, and we got the first Commander draft product, so it looks like they really understand that players are wanting more varieties of draft. And I think it's a really fun draft environment. It is more fun than Zendikar Rising, Corset 2021. It's actually probably the most fun thing I've drafted this year, because it is just such a different experience. It's casual, it's with more players, it's just more fun. But it does not mean it's a perfect experience. The issue is you're drafting, which means a lot of the decks are made up of commons. And, me personally, I'm used to slightly higher power Commander games, and so these seem to drag on a little bit. I'm used to, turn 10 to 15, like 15 being a really long game. These can run into the 20 or 30 turns because you are playing some of those just generic creatures that aren't going to really advance the board state, but you have to have them in your deck in order to do it. And I don't, this could be how I drafted, but the color identity nature of it kind of also adds to this problem. Obviously, if you're being more aggressive, which maybe me and my playgroup was not being aggressive enough, that could happen, but there are often times where literally there's no point in attacking. They can block everything without any creature dying, or if it is, it's very, very minimal, and like nothing's actually progressing the board state. And so I would say it's a little slow. I think the one game took about 2 hours to complete, and that wasn't including drafting. So just be wary of that. If you're trying to draft this quickly, it may take a little bit of time, and that is something you can adjust. If you realize, hey, this is a problem, you can maybe start with less life, or I don't know, incentivize players to attack more in some way. Maybe add the Monarch to the game at the beginning, although that is a thing Monarch really does help with, so keep that in mind. In terms of new commanders, I think they're great. In terms of new cards, I think that there aren't too many new staples, which I think is a good thing. I think we went into this and, they printed 3 staples in each color, 15 new cards that kind of just have to go in those decks. That would be pretty bad. If they printed Cultivate but with cycling, would have been kind of an issue. But, there are only a few cards in here that I would say are really good and almost auto-includes, although I don't think any card is truly an auto-include, because there are going to be those decks that don't want to run it for some technical reason, or just because, you may not like the card. And so, outside of Jeweled Lotus, I can't think of too many cards that seem overly powerful. Opposition Agent seems to be the number 2, which is the one that lets you kind of stop your opponent from searching their library. And then there's also the one that stops your opponent from drawing cards and instead gives you treasures. Those are like the 3 most push cards I can think of. And honestly, 2 of them are kind of hate bear cards that don't do anything if your opponent's aren't doing that. So I think that really is nice that we're not getting another free counter spell or Smothering Tithe or Ristic Study kind of thing. So that is pretty good. I just like, and I think this kind of summarizes it perfectly, there are a lot of awesome niche cards that fit into a deck perfectly. There's not a green card that fits into any green deck. It's a green card that clearly wants to go in this type of deck, a green artifact golem deck. Yeah, that's a very, very specific archetype, but it got a little bit more support, and it's really awesome when you do open those packs and you're like, wait a second, this fits perfectly into my deck, and it's kind of weird why it does, but it does, and so then you get to throw it in your deck, and that's pretty awesome. Next, I want to talk about prices. There have been some really awesome drafting experiences in the past, such as master sets, that are just too hard to draft for a lot of players because, well, they're expensive packs because Wizards wants to make more money. And honestly, these packs are not too expensive, and you have the chance at 4 mythics in one pack. Take a look at theme boosters, which are basically just you pick a color and you can only get cards from that color. They are almost double the price of a booster pack. And the biggest justification I see for that is, well, you can get an extra rare and there's a couple extra commons and uncommons. Well, let's take a look at Commander Legends. There's a couple extra common and uncommons with the 20 cards being in the pack instead of 15, and there's a chance for higher rares. And this actually has a chance of 4 rares, and it seems to be pretty common that you get 2, and there's a guaranteed foil in each pack, and they're looking to be about $5 a booster. Now, if there are shortages, expect this price to go up, but it's looking like they are intending this to be a $5 booster. So first off, we're getting awesome, cards in cheap boosters that are not like Masters boosters at all and have a chance to award a lot more than a single standard booster worth of value, and I think that's really awesome. Now, of course, there are collector boosters, but I don't really have a problem with them. There's nothing in the collector boosters that you can't get outside of the collector boosters aside from like cosmetic things. It's not like they reprinted fetch lands only in the collector booster. So as long as they keep doing that, they're not gonna be my favorite part of a product, but I'm not going to hate that they're there. I do think there is a better way you could do it, though, to make more people enjoy them. And then if we want to look at the set from a value perspective, which I don't think you should do, I mean, it's not a master set. The entire purpose of the set is not just to, lower the price of cards. It is only to, or not only, but it is a big part to add new cards, add an awesome experience, and, stuff like that. But the value doesn't seem that bad. There are some awesome reprints like Scroll Rack and Mana Drain, which are powerhouses in Commander and even outside of it, so that's pretty good. Essentially, it's a really fun set. There's some really powerful cards, but the self-governing nature of Commander really helps it, and overall, I think it was executed very well. Now, I want to know your guys' thoughts on Commander Legends in the comments down below. Were you disappointed by the cards? I mean, are you worried about partner, which isn't really something I talked about a lot here. Next week, I'm doing a video a little bit more dedicated to partner, and I may talk about it more there, so stay tuned for that. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.